Hi folks, welcome along to the Ghostlight Sessions. I'm your host, Dean Maywood. Tonight we've got a very special Ghostlight session for you that's unlike our usual show. We've got 4 top-class songwriters who are going to perform and talk about the stories behind their songs. This Ghostlight Sessions is along with the Earagail Arts Festival, so I hope you enjoy it. Let me just introduce our acts for the night. We've got Ultan Conlon, we've got Laura Quirke, we've got Ciaran Lavery, and we've got Joshua Burnside. So I hope you enjoy the show. And taking us away with the first song is Ultan Conlon.
Thanks, Dean. Lovely to be here. I'm going to play this song called A Weak Heart Like Mine that I released on an album, I think, about 5 years ago. Lover, please don't leave me. I'm a good man. Can feel myself turning to put the wind at my back and the sun on my face. Lover, won't you hold me for the rest of my days? I ache and I fumble with each move I make, with each move I make. Loneliness has been all I've known, spent past times crying. Your love is unbearable on a weak heart like mine. Lover, I've been out walking the streets of my mind. I search for an answer, but no truth can I find, or no peace of mind. But then you draw me closer and I breathe you in. My chest is on fire. Oh, how it burns from within. Feel your skin on my skin. Loneliness has been all I've known throughout my time. Now your love is unbearable on a weak heart like mine. Loneliness has been all I've known throughout my time. Now this love is electrifying on a weak heart like mine, on a weak heart like mine. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thanks very much.
So I love that song.
Thank you.
I've heard you play it here before, and I think there's something in your voice that's maybe not even captured in the recording. I think it's beautiful to hear it live.
Thank you. It was done. There was a couple of different versions of this. I put it out on my album as a solo song.
Yeah.
And Mary Coughlin, who I did some gigs with, heard it, and she rang me saying, "Ultan, that'll be a great duet."
I was going to ask you about that, how it, because I knew that you had it out, and obviously you're performing it solo here, but
Yeah.
it's probably more well known as the duet.
It was written as a solo song, but if you know Mary Coughlin and she tells you should do something, you won't argue with Mary. You know, she's a great woman. So when she rang, I sent her the album before it came out, and she kind of rang me just going, "Jesus, Ultan, that's a great effing song. You know the way Mary is. Be a brilliant duet." And I ended up doing a couple of gigs with her, and we kind of mapped it out as a duet. And yeah, she was right. It worked really well, a kind of call and response thing.
Yeah.
And it was a real honour to record that in the studio with her and release it.
Sure.
she adds something really special to it. And singing beside her, there's this mad energy off her. I mean, she's just so soulful. It's incredible. So it's kind of interesting how you write a song like that as a solo song, and it ends up becoming this completely different thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about the guys over here, because I know later on some of you are going to be doing some duets together, obviously. But do those kinds of songs start out? Do you think I'm going to write a song to be a duet, or how do you write when you're writing to write with somebody, thinking this is going to be a song that's a duet, or is it like Ultan's, where he's written the song and then it's like actually that would work quite well with another voice? How do you guys do it?
Well, I've only ever written one duet.
Okay.
And Josh and I are going to sing it later.
Yeah.
But I think how it might have come about for me was that I was listening to a lot of John Prine at the time that I wrote it, and he uses a lot of names in his songs, and he puts characters into them and gives the characters very, like a lot of space to be themselves, I think.
Sure.
And so, I had some images of the inside of a car journey that I'd written when I was a teenager, and like sort of feeling sort of restricted inside this claustrophobic sort of rainy car journey, and it was very much like the relationship between the people in the car was what I had remarked and stuff. So it just felt natural at that time to give the characters names, and then because it was a woman and a man, I thought, okay, this is just turning out to be a duet now.
Sure.
But it's also like it's a narrative one, because it's, each person is actually using the third person. So Sarah sits in the passenger seat and I sing that line.
Yeah.
And then Josh sings the line, David dares his eyes to glance over. So it's strange. It could be sung as a duet, or it could be sung as just like a song with the narrator singing it.
Did you have Joshua in mind when you wrote it?
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
She had some other fella. But she got me.
No, I had many singers in mind, not Joshua. No, but the opportunity came to do a gig with Josh, and then I love his voice so much, obviously, and I sent him the song and he liked it, so I was delighted to have the opportunity. It was sort of a nice synchronicity when that lined up, but I suppose we should sing it, maybe.
Yeah, I think we should
Now that
probably
I've gone on so much about
hear Joshua's lovely voice.
So we're taking the wheel then?
Yeah.
Cool. Are you playing?
I'm not in the right spot for it, but maybe we could do a swap.
Yeah.
And I could Sarah sits in the passenger seat and ponders the thought of taking the wheel, being more than indulged or humoured navigation, the comfort of feeling as though she's directing, gesturing left and gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. There's something you need to know. The two of them there sitting side by side, David driving, Sarah beside, the splashing rain on the window screen, the straining drain of nature's spleen, gesturing left and gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. There's something you need to know.
David dares his eyes to glance over. I can already feel the heat rising off her. Condensation closing in makes it hard to see the road in front of him.
Gesturing left, gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. something you need to know.
Saved by the radio, once again a song comes on to take them out of their skin and in love now, as they listen to the words that others have sung, so that they don't have to. Gesturing left and gesturing right, the hum of the engine, a hum womb like daring feet upon the dashboard speak a sweet desire for more. Rotting away from the core. David resigns to indicate, and the engine cuts by the edge of a lake. The song is reaching its final refrain. Their only wish is for it to remain. Playing again and again. Gesturing left, gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. There's something you need to know. Gesturing left, gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. There's something you need to know. Gesturing left, gesturing right, turn round down here, pulling at the side of the road. There's something you need to know.
So I should have been looking at you for the cue at the end there. I'm off in my own little world.
What was it that the other person needed to know?
I wanted to know that as well.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, that would ruin the mystery of the.
I actually don't know myself.
Fair enough.
What I like about it is that it's so open for interpretation, and every time I've heard it, I've thought a different reason about what it is they need to know, or what it is they're going to do, or what it is they've done, which I just think is, I love that in songwriting, I think. So that was a deliberate attempt to do that.
I think so. I see myself, I have a couple of different ideas of what it could be, you know?
It's a great lyric because when anyone ever says to you, listen, there's something you need to know, it's
never
like
good.
it's something dramatic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's a big deal, whatever it is.
It's just like, I had cereal for breakfast.
It's rarely good either if somebody says there's something you need to know. Would it be good news?
It's not normally good news.
We won the lotto.
Good news. I hadn't thought that.
So yeah, the ambiguity is good because it just creates tension, doesn't it?
I like the way you're kind of narrating it, both you know, rather than, you know, like you said, the first person thing. That's kind of, it's unusual.
Yeah, you do a little switch as well, where you take a Davy verse toward the end.
Yes.
Sorry. And that's nice because, again, it adds more, what seems to add more mystery, and there's like a fluidity about it then, because you're obviously two narrators but you're not entirely the characters either. And so, who are you? Because nobody mentioned the backseat. So, or the boot.
There's a little kid in the backseat.
It's just, yeah. It's really nice. I kind of like, I'm not sure whether any guys would be big readers and stuff, but I really got into short stories because for that same purpose, that you're dropped into the middle of a story and like the car journey, you're straight in there. You have no clue of the history and you don't really need to know about the future. It's just that.
But it's all hinted as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's that sort of thing that you create the story for yourself. You know,
The listener has to partake in the song. You know, they're not being spoon-fed the whole. They're not getting the beginning, middle, and end. They're getting dropped right in the middle. So then, their ego has to make up the rest of it, which is really
Yeah,
interesting.
like those adventure novels you used to get when you were a kid. You know, when you like turn to, if you want to go through the tunnel, go to page 67 or whatever, and if you want to continue on,
love
and then you
Great.
would go on, but keep your finger where you were in case it's like you died and you're like, oh,
No.
I didn't choose the tunnel. I was going to ask you as well, Ultan, about with your song, it became a duet after. In your head, then, did that change the dynamic of the song? Like, do you still hear it as a solo song, or do you hear it as two different versions?
Yeah, I guess when I wrote that song, I know I played it earlier as a sound check and saying, you know, do you need a hug and all of that kind of stuff. But it's a weird one because I was kind of
you?
more. I was more. No, I'm good, thanks. I was more reflecting.
really
Maybe after.
We had social distancing.
Oh Jesus. I kind of was reflecting on being this, you know, being lonely until I came to this point and met somebody, you know. But when you're on your own for so long, and you meet somebody like that, and it's intense, you know. You're not really able. I wasn't really able for the intensity of.
I loved the line.
If that
This
makes sense.
love is unbearable. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was unbearable because it's
I
just like it was great, but like a weight, you know. It was like
Yeah.
very intense. And then kind of the end of the song, you know, what's the line at all? I say, this love is electrifying. I just kind of came around to, you know, accepting it more. And so yeah, but it does sound obviously terribly sad, the whole song. But
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think
So
so either.
It's sort of exciting and
Yeah.
scary, but like in a
Yeah, it's in a hopeful sense. It's more on
Yeah.
the positive end of the scale.
yeah, I think my songs kind of tend to do that. I do start out, but I do like to kind of go up on the positive, you know, or show some positive in there. And that for me, yeah, I just kind of came around to it. So I wrote that song kind of in the throes of that, but very much from my point of view. I couldn't speak for the other person, you know. But I guess when Mary came in and like just pretty much divided the verses, it was two people kind of, you know, in the same boat, like, if that made sense. So it made sense as
Which
a duet.
actually brought a different meaning to it then.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
if this is one stream of consciousness in your own mind and you don't know how the other person feels, but then if Mary is singing it against you, then it's obvious that it's two stream
Yeah,
of consciousness
it's
is
true.
sort of like
that are kind of
merging
meeting as
together.
well, yeah, and bring some comfort, I guess. I
Yeah.
love duets, though. I purposely write some of them because, I don't know, I just love the whole structure of them, and I love the challenge of actually writing one. I think the older I get now, I'm looking more at structures of songs and going, I want to fit everything into 3 minutes, no fat on it. Do you know, that kind of way? I've gotten more that way. But duets to me are interesting in that sense that, you know, you have to kind of make them work for two people as well. But that one just happened to be a happy surprise that Mary found something in it, you know.
And how you were saying there 3 minutes and no fat on them? Like, how do you cut the fat off? Because every
There's a knife.
song
There's a
I
knife. And then you just,
can I have
Song fat
one,
knife,
please?
yeah.
Someone get me one. Almost all, and it's just I know that it's a weakness because I suppose you get better as time goes on, but. Nearly every song I write is about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and like, what happens is that I love what's there too much to let any of it go away, or to cut any of it away. And like, before it could have been 10 minutes long, and that's the thing. I have to
get you,
cut
yeah.
it down to.
I think
5.
over the years for me, yeah, I used to write songs. I wrote a song a couple of weeks ago about a cat in World War II. It's 10 verses. So I can't really talk about 3-minute songs all the time. But I've gotten more into that thing of just going, what
Can we
do I
hear
wanna
that
say
song?
in
That
this
song sounds great.
What's that?
Can we hear that one? That song.
Yeah, me too, me too.
I remember all of it. He's actually buried up in Belfast.
is he?
Yeah, Unsinkable Sam. He was a cat on a Navy ship in World War II.
Right.
Yeah, I just saw the story and I wrote it, but I sorry, I'm digressing, but I don't know what it is, Laura. I think for me, I've just become a real, like, what can I say? What do I need to say? And I try squeeze it in. There's a guy, Nick Lowe, I started listening to an awful lot. You know Nick Lowe? And he's got these amazing records over the last 10 or 15 years. He's in his 60s now, but they're all 2.5-minute songs, and he says so much in them. And like John Prine as well. You know, and it's a challenge for me, but it's something I'm kind of trying to force myself to do more, you know.
What about, I don't know how, and have you tried, and have any of you guys tried like character writing rather than write for yourself in terms of like the difference? Have you tried, you know, when you were talking about challenges and stuff, is that?
Yeah, well, actually, the challenges for me, and it's funny, I'm being like a weak heart like mine and these songs I'm singing today, I find it hard to connect with them anymore. I turned 40 last year, and I am kind of more going, can I write about characters and other people? And that's like, take the cat from World War II. You know, I've got nothing to do with that cat. It's just I'm telling a story, and I wrote
Are you going to sing the one about the cat today?
What's that?
Are you going to sing the one about the cat
You know,
today?
you're setting us up.
It's 10 verses. I'll probably
Just cut the fat off it right now. Give us a bit of the start,
I
get
could
to
do
the
a
middle,
verse
and
of
then.
it, will I?
Do a verse of it, yeah. Sure.
Definitely won't remember much of it. Four-legged friend of the Navy boy, fought in the war on the sea's high tide. Back in the days when men were men, that little cat was a ballast to them, and they called him Unsinkable Sam. His military career began in 1941 on a German U-boat that the British shot down. They found him clawing to a piece of board out on the waves far away from shore, and they called him Unsinkable Sam. And it goes on for like 10 verses that I can't remember any of them.
Not enough songs about cats.
Yeah.
Cat
The
Stevens doesn't
internet will
count.
love it. The internet will go wild.
I feel like that might have, was that the sort of song you find the story and then the song just wrote itself? You were just like, oh yeah.
I looked him up, and I did look up the story, so I just I'm going to write like the Ballad of Unsinkable Sam, I'm going to call it, but I just wanted to write the story about him, and I found it fascinating that like he survived 3 sunken ships, you know. Wow. And they retired him.
He's another 6 lives, obviously.
Yeah, he lived to 15. The House of the Sailors. Have you guys heard of that in Belfast?
House of the Sailors?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think he was put up there, you know, and he lived to 15, like, or something. They buried him up there, so
Right.
I'm going to have to do a staycation
Absolutely.
trip and go up and see his little grave. But yeah.
Fantastic.
I think that song will take on a life of its own when if you're already finished writing it, or when you do finish writing it. I think particularly live, I know it's probably something that's you're not gonna get anybody in radio that's gonna play a 10-verse song, but I think in your live shows, because I've been to your live shows and you're very interactive with the audience and storytelling, I think people would be interested in hearing this because you're invested in the cat. You want to hear the whole story. You got to get to the last verse and hear where he ends up and stuff. I think, I mean, do any of you guys then, because we spoke about trimming the fat off of songs, is it something that you think about, length of songs, for when you're, I mean, all songs, not all songs, but songs get played on radio. Is it something you think about? You're going, oh, this is a really good song, but I guess I'm going to have to trim a verse off it here because the melody's just too good and it could fly on radio, and I really want to give it its best possible shot. Is it something that you consciously think about, the trimming the fat thing, or do you just go, I'm just going to let the song be the song?
It's always part of a conversation, I guess, because if you're in a studio or you're playing it to someone, generally someone will say, oh, that would do great. I don't know about radio now. It's usually like, oh, that's a great song, or that'd be a hit or whatever. Yeah. In terms of radio, it's generally like, I think that's more of a management, or if you've got a team involved, then they'll be asking for like radio edits and all of that jazz. And then it just depends, I guess, how much you can stomach. You don't seem like a man who could stomach much, Josh.
Yeah, no, I once I've...
That's a compliment as well, by the way.
once I've kind of got an idea out in a song, I really don't like repeating it unless it's an idea that's worth repeating in like a meditative way. Like some songs I love that it's just the same 3 chords all the way through over and over and over again, and then you just get into you just sit in there. But then if the melody doesn't change or the textures don't change, or like there's nothing, I really don't like it. You know, the whole like when pop choruses double up at the end and double up like too many times, it's just kills me.
Why not? Bob Dylan did it with like a Rolling Stone.
It's the hook, the earworm.
Yeah, true. Maybe it's just maybe for me personally, I feel like embarrassed to sing another chorus.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
You've said it already.
I've said the song's done, and if I sing the chorus again, it's like trying to beat a dead horse or something.
I guess it is an old tactic, isn't it, with songwriting? Like if you go back to the days of when they were actually just sitting in not offices, I guess, but writing songs for radio and stuff. I guess it was just like, what's the hook? Isn't that the big thing? Like, and then just repeat it 10 times over 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's probably the very old way of thinking. But yeah, I guess the good thing about songwriting isn't it's completely blank. Like there's no right or wrong, is there? And like
No.
I think often what happens to me, and the reason that I write longer songs as well, is that I get caught in a trance of the repetitive thing, I actually really enjoy just the meditative feeling of singing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think a listener enjoys that too sometimes. Obviously not Josh, but
I enjoy it when it's your
Which I'm-
songs,
which
just not
I'm
my own.
regretting now.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for leaving them wanting more too, though. Like
True.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a kind of another
Yeah.
good tactic, I guess. I think there's a John Martin song. A lot of his songs they just faded out. After 2.5 minutes, you just go, it's just getting really good.
Yeah.
And that happened loads of times though back in those days, where it was just like the band, you can hear like a solo just about kick in, and the engineers
yeah. But I guess you go back to the beginning then.
just the saxophone was just
Yeah.
that'll do. But it is that thing. I used to hate that saying as well. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. That sort of idea where it was, you just had to get to the interesting part. But if you really care about the song, then you'll want every stage of it to be kind of. There's a purpose for the first line, and then the same in the chorus. It shouldn't just be like, I need a little bridge to get me here to here because this is the bit that's going to make me the money.
Yeah.
It's the same as kind of if you try to force something, it's going to be shite.
I suppose it depends on your perspective on songwriting. You're songwriters, so you want to write the song. You're not thinking, I need to have a hit. There's people who, and it's just for that, people who say, I want to write the hit. But if you're writing the song, you're writing the song. And like you say about, too often they'll come up with, I think, they'll get a really good chorus, a hooky chorus, to go, right, we'll just throw some verses in there. And the verses are shit. You know what I mean? They're just throwaway verses. And like you said, one of my favorite things in songwriting and listening to songs, I think the first line of the song is so important. So important. And when I've written songs, I've gone back and gone, that first line doesn't do it. I nearly feel like you have to set up the song in the first line. You got to hook the person and let them know what the song's going to be about in that first line.
Yeah.
You think of all the iconic songs, they've all got great opening lines. It's almost like a book.
It's nice writing backwards too. If you write that first, make that the second sometimes. And write.
Yeah.
I like doing that sometimes.
Or write the bridge first.
What's that?
Write the bridge first.
Right. Oh yeah.
We've got a bridge, but we don't know where it's going.
That's a mad one. I guess you can't though decide like if you're like Ciaran, you just said if you're for something, forget about it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
got,
difficult,
so
isn't
if
it?
a pop song falls out of the sky that's hooky and repetitive, happy days, and it makes a few quid, or whatever, like gets heard by people and people like it. But I think if you sit down with that intention, or sit down with the intention of writing anything in a particular way, it's hard territory, isn't it?
I mean, there's a fine line. I think like having a nice plan or at least dreaming something up and then seeing it through is a whole different ball game. But like trying to write something that you want to be emotive and to go in with that intention, I think that's where it gets a little bit strange, almost like robotic, where it's too artificial. You're like, I really want to make people cry. Okay, like let me try to access some of this. Like, what are really emotive words? Then next thing you're on Rhyme Zone, going like tears, rhymes with tears, fears. It's like Jesus Christ, But yeah, I find it. I think if there are some great songs that have been written by a group of people in a room, and fair play, because they make a lot of money and all of that jazz. And sometimes, you know, they obviously really connect with a lot of people, but everyone takes their own meaning from a song anyway. So like, you know, no one's gonna try to work out the background behind any pop song, or unless you hear the writer talking about it. Generally, they'll listen to it, they'll pull it into their own lives, and then be like, oh, how do I interact with this? This makes me feel like this because of my own personal history or whatever.
And I mean, pop songs are used for a different thing. You know, you're not
Well,
sitting
kind
down
of,
dissecting.
but it's just different emotions, I guess. You know, if you want to feel elated, it's hard to do that through a folk song as well. Where, you know, especially if someone's just writing murder ballads, it's unless you're also a serial killer, then you would feel elated.
It's like he's singing
Or
about me.
inspired. But,
I think we should get a song from you now, Ciaran, because
Okay.
everybody else has done something.
In my mind, I am a ruthless killer. I bludgeon all my friends and then go get some rest. In my head, I'm living out a thriller, when really it's a PG rated at best. No one knows I've been on the run for years now, living on the lam after a big time Ponzi scam. Lord knows, but I've been surviving somehow. They don't call me dangerous, they call me man. There's no romance in the daydream. Technology has bled me dry. People living like some magazine lets them know what's wrong and right. Out by the sinking tree, I keep my secret. How wouldn't you like to know? I'll never tell a soul. I almost died from the weight it bears to keep it. All I can say is you'll miss me when I go. There's no honorable good death. There's no soundtrack to my life. People living on the World Wide Web may find all they need to find, but they'll miss the beauty in the sky. They'll miss the beauty in the sky.
Beautiful. The lyrics are class on it. Really, really good, and like, because the melody is just so simple and pure and beautiful. But then you've obviously spent a lot of time on those lyrics and picking and choosing certain words and what to say and stuff. Is that something that you constantly do, or do you find some of your lyrics maybe come stream of consciousness out so they sound good, or do you spend a lot of time refining lyrics, or
I think I it's kind of evolved over, and I guess everyone probably has a different kind of way of writing, and whether or not they always have that old. I think it was Arlo Guthrie said, writing a song is just like fishing. You sort of just cast the rod in and you wait and just see what comes along. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, and it's you could be there all day soaked, but it really depends. I think I used to write in a very particular way where I could only write when I was kind of very much grounded, and I couldn't write when I was traveling or anything. It was too many distractions. And then I learned to go back and look at songs that were old and maybe pluck things and bring them into another song and just kind of have a play around and then see what works. Because I used to just, I don't know how many dead songs that you kind of have that I used to look at things, and once I finished it, it was like I can't take anything from that song. That is complete. And even if I didn't release it, it just sat and decayed. And so I used to feel sorry for those songs, like when I was young, and I used to go through phases of playing with different toys. I don't know why I'm going down this road now, but anyway, yeah, I feel like I began looking and plucking things from here and there. I remember reading a thing about Quirke who would take lines from songs that he had written when he was in his teens, and he would pull it into current day things, and that sort of made me look at songs again and not feel as if I was suddenly discrediting something because it was written as a complete thing. It was never going to see the light of day. So, but it really, I think it really depends on like what mood you're in, where you are in your life, all of that jazz. It's nice to have multiple ways of writing. And yeah, you get those lucky ones that just land on your lap and you have it written in 10 minutes, and when you look at the page and you haven't corrected anything, it's just, that's it. It's almost just fell out. But that doesn't happen all the time. I don't know, how do you guys write?
You must have been delighted with them opening lines in that song. Yeah. They're shocking. That's a good thing. Like, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of scary, man.
Yeah, really attention
But
grabbing.
it's good, like, you actually go, what the hell, when you did that at soundcheck.
What was the line about?
It's a really great reaction,
Danger or something.
Oh, they don't call me dangerous, they call me man.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. It's nice because I think the way that I've kind of started to think about songs in terms of the power of the first line, because it can disarm, and so it's the same with.
You've got the attention after that line.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get on the radio, but we're beyond that point. But anyway, it has that thing where I look the same way at songs the way I do it at film and books, where I want to be grabbed. If someone grabs me in the first couple of minutes, then I'm in. I'm invested. I don't want to.
That in a really complimentary way, by the way. It's shocking, It sounds.
You're not like it's shocking bad.
No. To be standing over there at soundcheck and kind of go, get a dart, It's really cool. It woke me up, like, it got my attention.
But there's a
I don't know
humour
what
in
else
there
to
as well.
say about it. It's really cool.
There's a humour in there as well, which is nice, which is kind of it's the thing that I love about John Prine's songwriting, whereby he'll have something really dark and then flip it with something really humorous. Just just a certain word, like you've got Ponzi scam in there, and it's just a funny thing to hear. It's just the sound of the word. Like you think of John Prine's Lake Marie, one minute you're laughing about sausages, and then he tells you that someone's been killed and blood looks like shadows or something. So you've got, and I think in a few of your songs, I feel that you temper the darkness with a bit of humour and the lyricism, which is really lovely.
Thanks. I kind of feel like unless you're writing something very, very specific where it needs to sit in this one emotion, then it's nice to have little breathers and if you can throw in those just little uppercuts every so often, where just when the listener is maybe thinking that they understand what's going on, you do the switch, and the old switcheroo works every time.
I find those lines are often the ones that you have to sort of let go of, because they could be so rubbish or they could be great. It's like humor is always on the edge there. It's like, oh, this could go flat, like, this could really go flat. But I think maybe it's those that have the same strange sense of humour as you that will laugh at it or something.
Yeah, think so. I mean, if you do the setup and then you do, that, then you're asking for a kind of muted response. But it's sort of just, if you just carry on,
Yeah.
as if you just picked it up.
Yeah. Usually they're the things that come first or something. They're
Yeah.
the funny things are something that just comes off the top of your head. And it's just usually a very weird thing that just popped out of your brain. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that I'd know because I write no funny songs whatsoever. So
It is hard though. I mean, how do you feel about when do you find that when you're writing, do you get frustrated or think like I need to stop writing about this, or do you kind of feel like, all right, I'm sitting in this emotion right now, I'll blast out 5 or 6 songs all around the same kind of feeling?
I don't work fast enough anyway to be able to do 5 or 6 songs and the same feeling. No way. But yeah. A lot of I read something that Leonard Cohen said recently, that he said that if you find you're in a creative block, it's usually because there's something that your subconscious wants to say that you're not allowing out.
Nice.
So, and I thought that was true. Yeah, thought that was true. So often, there are things that I don't want to write for some reason or another, and usually they have to come out in some shape or form, So just get to them, and get it down and get it over with,
Bloody hell. Sounds painful. Well, Ultan, you were saying about that song that you played earlier, that it, that was a time when you were thinking about writing the song at the time, it was painful and all of that, and you have those lines in the song as well.
Okay.
Did you find that writing, or do you find writing at times when you're talking about something that's quite raw, that it is difficult?
Yeah, it's even hard to put my head into that state, now it's a funny thing talking about songwriting like that. No, I think I'm kind of like, I feel if something like that song, maybe when I was writing, I do recall going, this has got something, so I'm just chasing the song then. I'm not going to feel painful about that, I feel good about it actually.
Yeah.
And like what you're saying there, I guess, or if there's something in the subconscious that needs to be said, and it's coming out in what seems to me like a decent song, happy days. That's a lot better than me going on a 2-day binge or something. Or whatever. If you're going to do it in song, So when I wrote that, I guess I was dealing with stuff,
Cathartic?
Yeah, and I guess you are just going, like somebody else is going to relate to this. That's all. There's never a doubt about that. If something's coming out that's real and that you're going to have people that are going to relate to that. So no, for me that feels good, and I'm expressing how I feel. I guess not about talking about gigging it or anything, but like you said, even if the song never sees the light of day, I guess it's been put on a page, and I'm creating something.
Yeah.
So that, and I'm also kind of stepping back from myself and going, oh, this is where you're at right now. This is where you were then, So that to me is pretty.
What kills
feels
me
good.
is when I don't want the song to see the light of day, but it is good.
But it's
I
really
don't want-
nerve-wracking playing a song the first time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
desperate.
It's terrifying, for anyone, or sending a demo to a friend or something. I get really nervous,
It's so exhilarating as well, especially if you've been playing the same songs for a while and you get a chance to play a brand new song, and it feels real good.
Yeah.
It just feels real nice to sing something new.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first test as well. It's the acid test to actually try it outside of your own head.
Yeah.
If you see someone look at their shoes,
This is crap.
this is yeah, and you just stop and be like, that was only a joke song.
That was a joke.
I've got another one coming.
That was a Ciaran
Yeah,
Lavery
you got to
cover.
try though, like even a stand-up, like if it falls, like that's part of it, the fun too, isn't it? Nearly?
Yeah.
Like you still feel good. I did it, I'm when I do a gig, I'm really afraid to do a brand new song because I'm going to get really nervous doing this. But I always, like you said, it's thrilling, because I guess when you're doing your old songs over and over, you lose that kind of.
I kind of get the opposite, where I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to play new songs because no one's got an expectation of what it's supposed to sound like yet. Whereas I've been playing a song that I've released on a record or whatever, and people kind of want to hear it, kind of like a little bit, at least a semblance of that. So I need to kind of get it right.
Okay.
So I'm more, especially if I'm with a band, there's lots of musicians, and you need to all be tightened together, and And if it's an older song that you maybe you've only rehearsed like a couple of times in the last couple of years, and you're just like, how does that song go again? You don't want to disappoint people, is what I mean.
You know what you should do? Just put a double chorus at the end. Give them what they want. Send them home happy.
That's all they want, Josh. They just want a double
They
chorus.
just want to give them a double chorus.
Just do a song full of double choruses.
Joshua Burnside sold out.
The double chorister. Well, here, because I was going to ask you, because I never got to ask about your album, that In the Depths of Hell, because it made me feel really uncomfortable listening to it, and I guess that's obviously that's my own issue. But how was that to write? Because a lot of that seems terrible. I mean, I love the honesty is almost unbearable, but I really admired that.
Cool. Yeah. It's the same process as writing any of my songs. I think I didn't initially intend for things to get kind of gloomy, and then when I was coalescing all the songs together and kind of trying to work out what the album was, the recurring themes just kept coming back and back, and I was like, okay, this is a. Before I realized it was like a dark sort of album, I was like, okay, that's the way it is going to be.
And
I
then
may
you
as well
just
leave.
sealed the deal by calling it Into the Depths of Hell.
Yeah, I like that because it's like it sounds like a metal album.
Yeah,
Yeah,
though it's
yeah.
it looks like one as well.
And it looks like exactly. Even though it's so, I like the idea of people picking up a CD or a record or whatever, and then
Just knowing
looking
where
at
it's
it
going.
and not knowing at all what it's going to sound like from the cover, or being completely surprised by the title and the name and the thing. Like looking at something like, oh, this is obviously a heavy metal record, and then putting it on and it's like jangly folk, and you're like,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then so. Like it's just another way to surprise people, isn't it?
You like disappointing people.
Just disappointing people, yeah.
It's going to be
Want money back.
It's going to be a great metal album.
Yeah. Get all those Slayer fans.
This is soft.
Yeah, I'm just a troll, real life troll.
The title.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel about titles in terms of records and songs? Do you take forever with them? Are they like the last thing you consider, first thing on a page?
They're hard.
Josh was good at it, actually. Because I found with the songs that we wrote together, I was always asking him to name the song, because I couldn't. I used to be really good at it because I used to just call it whatever it was, like the first line or something. But then when I started thinking about it being a statement, then that's when, I couldn't name anything then for a while. But yeah, maybe I just need to go back to just calling it the first thing that comes to your head.
Just the first word.
Yeah, the first word. I.
What about you, Alton?
Yeah, I think the title of a song, I kind of struggle with that, but I don't tend to have a title going into a song. It kind of comes as the song has been written, you know. The title for albums, I like having fun with that, you know, and just looking for something kind of cinematic or, you know, something kind of striking, you know. And I like that process. That's something
What
I
did
feel
you
like even
call
pick
your
it-
last album?
There's a Waltz.
There's a Waltz.
Yeah, there's a waltz. There's a waltz dance. The one before that is Last Days of the Night Owl. I came up with that one when I was in.
Sounds like a Rush album.
What's that?
Sounds like a Rush album.
I was in Scotland touring and we were up late, and I was just like, I was with the band and we hadn't slept much and we were just walking around Glasgow, and I don't know why that
Last Days of a Night Owl.
just jumped into my head. I was like, oh, I'm done with this crap. I'm gonna start getting up early and getting to bed early and stuff. And I did, you know, when I came back, I haven't. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't tour as much, and yeah, I kind of just felt that late night thing and getting up late and not having a routine was just, as I was getting older, I was going, this is not doing me any favours. But that title I just liked. I don't know why. It just came into my head. That's a nice, and it had nothing to do with the album, you know.
It reminds me of Death of a Ladies' Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, right. yeah. Great record.
Have you considered that you could potentially run a whole series of these? So, you know, The Night Owl Strikes Back, Return of the Night Owl,
franchise?
The Night Owl again,
Yeah.
and then again.
We'll see. There might
Comeback
be a
tour of the Night Owl.
yeah.
trilogy or something.
Yeah. Amazing.
Laura, would you like to do a song on your own, or does Joshua
yeah,
want to do
sure.
a song on his own?
Why not?
Whatever.
Why
Sure,
not?
give it a go.
Yeah. A bit nervous about this, but I don't really play piano, so I'm learning. But we'll see how things go. So this song is a song called In the Half Light, and the story behind this one, I was up in Belfast recording with Joshua, and we took a break from the studio one day because it was too warm to be inside. The day was too nice to be in a dark room, and we went out to a pub with Joshua's friends, and they were talking about Ash, a woman who had died from cancer earlier on in the year, and who had one of their friends who had sort of treated her death as an art project.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe if you want to talk a bit about that rather than me, because I was just inspired by the story.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. She was a pretty amazing artist and personality, and she approached her own mortality and death really incredibly, and like kind of inspiring in a way, and yeah, basically made her own
Wake box, wasn't it? A living wake box.
Living
she
wake
called
box,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That everyone in the studio was painted, and it was just a really, I think, really healthy way to approach death that I'd never seen before.
Mm.
Yeah.
And listening to Josh and his friends speak about it was really amazing, because it was like she had become sort of a therapist or something, where she was just even though she was going through this incredibly difficult experience, she was taking on all the problems of everyone else that came in and just talked to her, and they could sort of tell her anything. So I was incredibly inspired by this, and I when I came back to the studio, I went down to the piano that was in the dance hall in Vault, and the song came out in one breath nearly. It was, and that's not really happened to me before. It hasn't happened to me before. So I think that this song sort of came from her maybe, or something like that. I don't feel like I have the right to say that, but at the same time, I'm very grateful to her story, and I think that it seems like she wanted to start a conversation about how we deal with death and how we embrace our lives as well. And I think that's the main thing that I took from it, that I felt so lucky to be alive and to have those that I love around me that were alive, or even to have had the experiences that I had with people who died. Just hearing that, I think, put everything into perspective for me, and the way that she dealt with her death so courageously.
Sure.
So take this love, I made it for you. It is yours to hold and keep forever. Someday this love will have nowhere to go, and I will wish that I gave you more. Your face in the half-light, all angular, soft. It would be weird to tell you now, but maybe I should. You've only got so hold and keep forever. Someday this love will have nowhere to go, and I will wish that I gave you more. All the jokes you make, I want to laugh like the sun. I want to give you all my light until the day is done. Your jawline blade glinting in the rays. Someday my laughter will echo into space. You might not hear it take this love I made it for you. It is yours to hold and keep forever. Someday this love will have nowhere to go, and I will wish that I gave you more, and I will wish that I gave you more.
There's so many lyrics in that song I just fucking love. Just like the only so many days to be told you're beautiful.
Oh, that's the one that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
the
got
repetition on
me.
that line, and then you kind of put a little detail on it. You know, just the second time around when you just that little extra bit of detail that to
Oh.
be told.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's right.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
lovely.
Yeah.
That is a great that line for me. Yeah,
Cracking song.
it's kind of like you think, you know, when you're with people or whatever, you've got forever to let them know that, you know, you let it run, don't you? But that kind of only a few days to kind of this has to be said nearly, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it.
I think that that's something that I felt like she knew, at at that stage. It seemed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know her, so I couldn't say. But it's interesting, like being like feeling in a way with that song that it's not mine.
Mm. You feel like it just came out of the ether and sort of.
Yeah, or that like when something, it's a tricky one because like when something is inspired by such a story that's already there, that's not yours, that's someone else's to tell in a way, that it, there's this simultaneously a feeling of really needing to sing it and also feeling like, someone else's voice could do it more justice or something. But I think that the way that I sort of came to terms with that was that she wanted to start the conversation, so it's just continuing the conversation and
And like the story of love and loss is everyone's story, so it doesn't matter, I guess, where the inspiration to kind of process it and turn it into, art or music comes from. But it's all the same raw feelings there, isn't it?
But it's the empathy as well. It's the empathy of songwriting. I mean, you didn't know the lady, but it's clear to see, even in your delivery of the song and how you sing it, that you had great empathy for her and her and her life.
Yeah, I
And
don't
that
know if
comes
there's
acro-
ever
so-
been a moment that, like, any of you, and you as well, you're a songwriter, so, like, has there ever been a thing that you've been intrigued to write a song about, but that you feel you can't because of your position or something in?
I wrote a song a few years ago called Ilan na Marav.
Sorry?
Ilan na Marav.
Okay.
It's an Irish title, which means Island of the Dead. And again, similar to that, I was just sort of felt driven to write the song It's an actual place in Donegal, so it's an island
Yeah.
in the west, and over in Godor, where they buried stillborn children up until 1916, I think, and there's up to like 900 babies on the island, because at the time, if you're stillborn, you weren't baptized, you couldn't be buried in the graveyard in Ireland. So I seen a picture of the island one day, and I just thought it looked beautiful, and I was like, where's that? Found out it was in Donegal, luckily, and read about it, found out the story, and thought, wow, I went to visit it. And when I was there and visited it, it was just like,
I was.
I felt how you felt hearing the story, you know. I just felt very touched by it. Just it struck a chord with me, and I didn't write a song immediately about it, but about a year later, I wrote the song about it, and it just came out. And again, like you said, I sat down one day and I started playing a sequence of chords, and I started singing, and the song came out almost completely in one go. And I get what you mean. I feel that kind of guilt of, oh, well, I have nothing to do with those people or their children or that island. It's not near where I live. But I think I think songwriters are naturally empathic people, and that's why people hear songs and think that song's about me, because you can feel empathy for somebody, and you can pick up and their vibes and go like, and it's not being disingenuous to write about something you don't know, because as Joshua said, everybody feels love and everybody feels loss, and you can tap into that emotion. I think that's probably a common theme.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It could be, you know, a case of being slightly detached from the subject, as in, if you were a close friend, I couldn't imagine how tough that would be to write for someone that you feel so much for, because then you have to funnel it all into one song, and you would never be able to do that. And so someone in your position, or your two, you know, positions that you've been in, you have that
Space.
And it's a really great
Yeah.
kind of area to be in, whether or not how you sort of make peace with it in your own head, but to be closer to the subject,
It's actually harder, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to write, because it'd be too many things.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to sit down and write.
So it's great. I think it's like right person, right place, and all of that just slips in. And whether or not you don't have to, you know, you don't have to show like your credentials or anything at the end of it. It's not like it's not fake or false or artificial. If you kind of say, I wrote it about this person, as long as
I think that's why it feels really important to tell the story, even, you know. It feels really important to tell our story.
It's good because you basically, and in both your cases, you give words to the people who probably couldn't translate it in a way that would, you know, summarize it or define how they feel, and that can maybe be just something for them then, which is great. You know, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it was interesting, the going down like that never happened before, but that I propped my phone up on the piano, and I had written earlier that morning like some words when I had been most inspired by it, and just like the melody and those chords just coming out straight, and recording it on my phone, and then that ended up being the recording that Josh and I used.
With the false opening.
With the false start, I had
The
loads of
false start.
mistakes in it because I didn't know how to play it at the time. There was loads of mistakes in that recording. It's just full of mistakes, and that's the only. I think that's the best way to frame it as well, because that's that sort of
That's you,
idea
like,
of just living and.
Yeah. I think
But
it's
also you were
great.
capturing magic. You were capturing that magic of the moment of the song. Sometimes certain songs just have to be recorded that way. That you have to just.
Yeah, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I mean, there's the
as in,
famous
I
one
didn't.
of-
But anyone that said before, oh, I recorded and wrote this at
Yeah.
the same time, I was like,
Yeah. Right.
Do a PR stunt.
Now I'm a
well,
believer.
it just fell out in 5 minutes, and I just happened to have a microphone. I was in the studio that day actually. And fuck off. Yeah, fair play. It takes a lot of bravery, I think, to record something that does have mistakes, and not as soon as you make the first one go stop, start again. You know, and just to kind of think like that is the way it's supposed to be, and then to listen back and know that you could, you know, re-record it a million times, but you probably never capture whatever was in the first recording when you weren't really thinking, you were sort of just finding it.
yeah, you weren't focused on the end product.
Yeah,
It wasn't a song when you were writing it. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're fucking BPM, some click going off in your ear, kind of. Here we go.
The demos always sound the best on the phone.
Sometimes the phone, yeah.
Sometimes I go in then to the studio and I'm listening back to the little voice memo going, the second time I ever sang it, you know.
Yeah.
Just release
And
it
it gets
like that.
worse and
you
worse.
Can now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's mad, isn't it? There's something about that. It's so fresh and you're so excited singing it and then I overthink it then, you know, even the phrasing and stuff. And that once you get into that headset, or once I do, I find that tricky, you know.
It takes a lot, I think. Even, you know, people that are around you as well, for someone, if you don't see it yourself, for someone else to say, you don't need to touch that. Just release it as is. It's great. And then if it flops, then you can go back there and be like, you're a bastard. I had a full brass band on this.
Okay, we'll hear a song from Josh. Do you want to go, or Ultan?
Sure,
One of you guys?
Yeah. Shall we do Far Away?
We were on the sofa, falling asleep as the rain battered down. In the conservatory glass, nothing else sounds like that. It was so loud, couldn't hear the TV. Our uniforms lying soggy on the floor. Chloe, don't close your eyes. I'll never get this place organized. I wished we were like Californians, as cool as the car in the morning. Wanted everything they had: a swimming pool, sun and sand, coffee in the kitchen. Now they come in their droves, distant cousins, I suppose. See our ancient things, magic stones, that kind of thing. Trying to fill that emptiness, I guess. Trying to fill that emptiness, I guess. Just like the rest of us. Just like the rest of us. Far away, far away, far away, the hills are green. Far away, far away, far away, the hills are green. Far away, far away, far away, the hills are green. Far away, far away, far away, the hills are green. Far away, far away, far away, the hills are green.
You did about 5 choruses at the end.
I
You
just
absolute
realised
blind
after
bastard.
me dissing long choruses that song was just one long repetitive chorus. Really?
I thought the line where you say about Californians, that to me sounded like a chorus.
Okay, yeah.
So I was kind of going, that's cool. He did a verse, chorus, and then an outro. I was kind of going, it sounds like it sounds like a really classic song. You know, the chord structure. We're talking about REM there.
Yeah, it's
got-
definitely an REM chord like
Yeah, it's
modal
lovely.
vibe. I think REM
Yeah.
probably have used that same chord progression. I think somewhere. But I like just using same 4 chords. The first 4 chords you learn.
Yeah.
Just don't even bother changing. Why not?
Nah.
Who
Yeah,
needs-
but you changed the vocal melody, that the Californian part,
Exactly.
that kind of whatever. I
Yeah.
can't fully remember what it did, but that to me sounded like. I love that when you use the same chords but change the vocal melody, you know, and there. So yeah, sounded lovely.
Yeah. It's that line as well, the as cool as the car in the morning.
Mm.
Really, really nice.
Yeah.
Although,
Someone else-
if you're in a sunny climate,
Well,
are you not cool then?
the whole point is like it's sort of growing up in Ireland, everyone can relate to that feeling of waking up and going to school and getting in the car
Freezing.
and it's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to just tap into that time in your life.
And also the windscreen being frozen and then going into the kitchen and trying to boil the kettle
yeah.
and then come back out and throw the kettle of water on
Yeah.
the windscreen.
As well as having a conservatory in a non-sunny country. So you've got the rain batter. But for me,
Yeah.
is the line for me as well. It's like, do Americans know what that's like? You know, having a sunroom that's getting battered with rain and it's incredibly loud. Like that's the line that stands out for me at the start. I'm like, I know that sound. You know.
It's such a funny idea, isn't it? That
Yeah.
we do. I suppose we love having the light. Like
This is
being in a room of light, like, because we don't get much of it.
Yeah, and you can't use it in the winter because it's too cold. You can't sit out
Yeah,
there.
you
Like.
can't use it.
That's true.
No, there's a few lines in the song like that which are immediately from the start you can go, I know what that's like. I know that feeling. And it's, as you say, you're trying to grasp that thing of being Irish and what it's like being here, I guess. And is that the concept of? So I want to be the Californian line and the hills are green. Is it? The what they perceive us as looking in, as in lush green Ireland, and then this is the reality of what we actually are.
Yeah, so the idea of the song started off just about just tapping into those sort of feelings, what it's like to grow up here, and then you're always kind of looking. You're kind of brought up watching all this American TV, and you just their lives look so glamorous and sunny, and everyone's just so cool, and you're like, you've got the soggy uniform, and like. Getting the sweaty bus to go to school, and it's just like your life just doesn't compare to their lives.
Yeah.
And then, but then they're doing the same thing,
Yeah.
you know, and they're looking over, especially when you see them pour in by their thousands to see, you know, the Blarney Stone or some other sort of
Magic stones.
magic stones, yeah, and like they're trying to find something, you know, that they feel that they're missing from their life, some magic or ancient wisdom or something that they feel they don't have, or so everyone's just looking for something, you know. Everyone's looking over to the
It's that grass is greener thing.
yeah, it's just basically
Yeah. It really, as well.
No,
with
it's far away the hills are green.
far away, the grass is greener. With the two of you singing together, I think it's a lovely sound. The harmonies are, the voices are just complement each other so well. There's a real Richard and Linda Thompson vibe going on there. It's really, really cool. Really like that. Again, was that song, was it written in mind of having someone else along with you? Or I suppose what I want to ask is, of all of you, when you write a song, do you immediately think, oh, this could sound like this with a band, or this kind of production on it? Or do you wait until you're in the studio and then that happens then? Because I know, like, at the minute, like, I've written a lot of stuff this past year during lockdown and whatever, and a lot of them, like, I hear that with a band, so then I go practicing with the band. It's like it becomes a different thing then, as opposed to this song that you're just playing on your acoustic. Oh, it's a different song altogether. Do you bear this stuff in mind? Do you go into the studio going, I want this to have a 4/4 beat, and I want this to have, and the guy's going, but it's just a little acoustic song. No, in my head it's a, you know, how do you guys deal with that, and just what's your experience with layering songs and making them bigger. And I know with you being in Limoncello as well, so you're writing the songs for that as well. Do you write those the same as you write these songs, or is it a different thing? Is it a different part of your musical brain? You know?
Yeah, it's funny. That's kind of only come about recently, because before now, nearly all of the songs that I wrote were for Limoncello. So
Yeah. So have you always been writing in mind to be more than just one person on your own? I guess.
Yeah, I suppose once I started, well, originally no, but once I started playing with Claire quite often, then I would always hear her harmony, and it's funny then it's funny when we get into a room together, I often don't translate what I have in my head for the song, but sometimes she'll pick up on it anyway, which is kind of funny. And then sometimes she'll pick up on something that I would never, most of the time she picks up on something that I would never pick up on. And I think with Limoncello it's interesting because it's just a bare song, and Claire's got such a rich, I suppose, reference of harmony, and she played in orchestras when she was a kid, and she just loves the Beach Boys so much, and all this. So she thinks in terms of harmonic movement all the time. That's just her thing, and so I'm always writing the song sort of as bare as possible so that she can then fill it. And it's interesting, like recently I keep saying it's interesting, and it's probably not that interesting, it's just the way that I speak. But recently we started playing with a bigger band, and so it's been nice to see the song go to Claire first, Claire take it in a very specific direction, and then we bring it to the band and we improvise together.
Okay.
But she always kind of has first dibs on where it goes harmonically, and I think it's a nice way to work. It's just the way that we have naturally done it, because we started a band together when we were in college, and it's just we're really best friends, so it's just the way that we play music together. But it's nice, like I feel like I have a certain amount of control in the chords I pick and in the lyrics I pick, and then Claire has the control when it comes to how do these chords move between each other, and where do they go from there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
It was interesting.
it was inspired by that anyway. Yeah.
No, it's cool. So how you guys feel then about like handing over your song when you've written a song in the house on your acoustic or your piano, and it's just you? Is it a thing of going and saying, I want you to play exactly this on the song, or is it a little bit of we'll just vibe with it and I'll tell you if I like it or not, you know?
It's interesting. I mean, you're a producer. I don't know, Ultan, do you produce your own stuff?
Yeah, I've got a couple of guys that I've been playing with for a good few years now, 4 of us, and I kind of arrange stuff, but one of the other guys is far more musical proficient than me, so he takes the reign of that. But I guess I'm somewhat of a producer in that sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've seen you work, and you can cover a lot of ground yourself, and so in that sense, you don't really need bringing people in. Is probably very specific in terms of you already have things mapped out.
Well, I get for most of my stuff, but for some stuff, for a couple of the tracks from the last album, I wanted to have like a band kind of feel, like War and Everything, and another track called Never Was, Never Were. But I just had the song brought into the studio, and I normally don't do it like that way at all. So that was really exciting for me to see which way they would take it. And we only had, I normally record in my own space, but I've got limitless time and just to sit and tweak things and muck around with things, and that's the way I like to work. But sometimes the clock of the studio time can be a good motivator, just to be like, get this song out, you know. And like Mason, he played bass, never even heard either track, and we were recording, and he just had to learn it and he came up with his own part like in a minute, and it was killer. And same with everyone, trumpet, cello, drums. I was like, this is a tune, learned it, recorded it, and it was like frantic. It was really hot summer's day as well, so the studio was roasting, and there was real frantic energy, and the songs kind of needed that, so it kind of worked.
And was that all tracked so that like you couldn't go back over it, like we all in the one room?
We were doing the drums, bass, and guitars at the same time.
That's great. Though you don't have the choice. Then you just have to,
You have to
commit to what you have.
Yeah.
That's great because then you don't spend days going back over.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
Analyzing.
Yeah. So, yeah, you get mixed results.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with one of the tracks, and the other one I was like, it's okay, but yeah.
I think in terms of my experiences, a lot of it is just sometimes it's just letting go and being able to, there's nothing worse than asking someone to play on something, but you have it so restricted that there's no real room for them, and so you may as well just do it yourself or have someone who just doesn't have to think. I always find it, if very specific players who have specific skills in terms of either their musicianship or they're great writers, there's no point bringing them a finished song and saying like, what do you think? Because they're not really there to be your listening audience, but I kind of like, if I'm bringing people in, that they can add their thing to it, the very specific thing, which I think is great about what you guys do, because it's not a duet in a sense that it's like the modern duet. I kind of say it's more the classic sense where it's like two lead vocals, and so you can hear the individual rather than it being, shoved a female vocal like somewhere up below there and just do the stuff. So it's really nice, and I think, that's the way it should be.
I think some of that is because I'm very bad at singing harmonies, so I just sing
Just
another
sing out.
melody line over Josh's melody. Yeah.
But it is much more interesting to hear that, I think, than even with players and stuff. Like, I don't know, ultimately you were saying about the guy that you work with.
Yeah, I've recorded many different ways. My first record, I remember I was just getting used to kind of recording, but I totally overdid it. Like, I was like Guns N' Roses album. We talk about Chinese democracy. It took them like 10 or 12 years. We rented a house, remember, a log cabin, and I bought all this gear and like just went crazy in there, because I kind of felt like when I bought all this gear, this was going to do the work for me. That was a mistake I made, like, and then just playing with a click track and all of that, I was new to that. So I used to labor a lot over stuff. Like my albums, I'd do a version, and then a month later or a week later, I'd be ringing them up going, no, we'll do it this way, driving myself lula, The last record I did was in America, and I recorded in 2.5 days, just all of us in the room live. And it was such a pleasure. Like,
There's something to be said for doing things fast.
oh yeah.
I think, like, time and place.
Like what you said about the phone, is it that you did
Yeah.
you kept the recording off a phone?
We
I
used to do
admire that,
recording,
because I'm going to do that now. I have a couple of them. I was going, but I can't release this. That was my. It's really nice to hear that. That you released something that you sang into a phone. So it's nice that things are getting a little easier that way. But there's a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. There's a lot to be said for doing stuff quick.
Yeah.
And not going back over, because really and truly, the end result, I don't know, is it going to be that different, from other people's perspective, if you've got a good take, or wondering about another instrument. I've kind of gotten to a point as well where any of the guys that recorded me, I just want to serve the song. If you're a bass player, I don't want you to be thinking like one. It's what does the song need?
Yeah.
So that's important with the people I play with as well. Like the guy I do work with a lot, an American guy who lives in Galway, and he's a multi-instrumentalist, but he's very much like that. He'll build everything around the voice and the song, and it just, it doesn't get in the way of it.
Complementary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, I remember reading a thing about Tom Waits, and they were saying he gives all of his musicians characters, so he'll, instead of giving them directions, he tells them that they have to play like a certain thing, like play like a fat man in a small suit, that kind of thing. And then he just like, right, 1, 2, 3, here we go, and they have to just try to channel that. So work it out in your head. I guess it's a way of kind of disarming someone, so you eliminate.
So not just falling into the same sort of patterns of
so it's
being
just
and playing the bass part, like it's what.
Yeah, or not getting technical either,
Yeah.
It's a lot more playful as well.
It's nicer
that
speak,
way.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a natural thing then. I think, was it Frank Zappa does this thing where all the hand gestures he created for his band, so he had like this thing was just play a random note, so when he did that, then everyone just had to play something random, and then you're back into the song, so he was kind of orchestrating from the front. but very much in a way that he wanted everyone to just stay on your toes.
The thing with recording, I guess, that I really like is that every time I go to do it again, it's new, you know. It's, even though you do get more used to it or you get better at it, I guess, but it always throws me one way or another, you know. It confuses me. Why didn't that work? You know? Again, coming back to the phone thing, why did that work so well, yet now I'm singing into a €2,000
Yeah.
condenser mic, and it doesn't sound nearly as good. I love the mystery of it.
No, it's mad because you get the most expensive mic and it's actually too good. Because what you want is less information.
Yeah.
Not if you have too much audio information, it's that doesn't sound actually that nice. You need like a
Picks up everything.
picks up everything, and you
breath.
just want that nice crisp bit in the middle, really. Most of the time, anyway, unless you want something.
I think as
weird.
well, people that songwriters and musicians look at it like songwriters, musicians, as in that everybody who's listening will be a songwriter and a musician. You know, when the majority of people who listen to music are not versed in playing music or writing music, so you think, oh, I have to have the best mic and I have to have the thing, and this thing has to be the best written piece of, the bass player has to be doing this amazing thing, and you paying over it for a long time, going, oh, we have to get that right and do a million takes, and then there could still be something in there at the end, you go, oh, that bit, and then nobody hears it but you. You know, it's like,
I do think people are expert music listeners, though.
yeah,
Like my dad wouldn't play a lot of music, but he would really appreciate music.
Yeah.
And he could, and he might not have the vocabulary sometimes maybe for certain production things or whatever, but he'll like be able to pick out why he doesn't like something and explain it in a different way than I would have thought of.
The feeling is important.
feeling.
See,
Yeah.
it's like all of
Because everyone consumes so much music, so they know what they like.
Yeah.
They just might not have the musical vocabulary to kind of.
Does he do it through comparisons? Because a lot of people do that, where like, oh, that sounds a bit like,
Yeah.
you know, Nat King Cole, this, blah, 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 and then they go off on one.
Yeah, I love it when people use like really strange words to describe sounds. You know, it sounds like crispy or fuzzy or all that sort of stuff. Because so much.
Although crispy and fuzzy are the worst sounds that you want to. Sounds kind of
Crispy.
crispy.
Crispy's good. Crispy, I like crispy.
tinny, it's got a tinny sound.
Got a tinny,
Yeah.
crispy,
Fuzzy in my ear.
spongy. It's
Good Lord.
creamy. Creamy's nice. I guess the creamy bass.
I remember I worked with a producer once in Dublin, and he said he worked with Bjork, and she kept asking for a mix to sound like toffee. That's all she kind of kept going back to. Like, she wanted
I
like
understand
toffee.
that more
Yeah,
than.
that's what he said. He said there was a lot of noise, and she just kept saying, just like toffee, and he was like, I know what that is.
Yeah.
It's not fuzzy or crispy either. It's out of date.
I think
Mouldy.
sometimes you have to, when you're recording. Well, so I find that I have to like stand back and sort of squint with my ears because I'm too invested in the meaning of something, or in the technical delivery of the music, one or the other. And I think that they're two things that they matter to a certain extent, but the groove of it or the feel of it or the sort of the sort of world that it's in.
Yeah. That the feel and groove can get lost when you're concentrating so much on the technical. And as you
Absolutely.
say, when you stand back and sort of
Absolutely.
squint
Yeah,
orally, it's a
yeah. And I think it should kind of be effortless. It should feel when you're squinting. What I find when I'm squinting with my ears, I want to feel like it's effortless, like that it sounds effortless. Well, yeah. I suppose if you're really trying to bring across some very intense, aggressive metal music, then you don't want it to sound effortless. But maybe you do. There's a certain like agility or something that just comes across naturally sometimes that you only hear if you kind of step back.
Sure. I think we'll get another song, will we? Ultan, do you want to go or Ciaran?
Sure, yeah. A long way back to love, I throw my hands above. A long way back to where my feet were standing. Was it time it was on my side? Now I'm running out in the wild. I see a sign a long way back to love, a long way back to trust. The road is steeped in mud, carrying all this baggage up in my mind. Try to hitch a ride, but my face is a telltale sign. I'm stood here crying a long way back to love. No bed of roses, bedbugs bite, they gnaw at me in the night. Solicit strangers, living dangerous, telling myself everything is just fine and dandy. A long way back to love sure was a cut above, a long stretch to inner peace and understanding. I can shake the fear inside, 'cause every now and then it subsides. But I feel the bite, it's a long way back to love. In the wicked night, it's a long way back to love. Thank you. Thanks very much.
It's like a classic song. It's kind of got. Do you think? Was that kind of? What was that influenced by? Because it just sounds like such an old, like almost like Elvis type.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I do like a lot of older music, all right. I wrote that late one night. It's funny, that one, you know, I guess a couple of people said to me, you know, when you mention love in a song, everybody presumes it's a relationship thing, you know. But I wrote that, I guess years ago. I gave up alcohol when I was in my 20s. I had an issue with that. And, you know, when you give up something like that, you think, yay, everything's going to be rosy. Like, that was my vice, you know. But, like, you realize as you go on, you've got your phone that you get stuck to. And I slip back into that mentality, that kind of out-of-control mentality, if that makes sense. So that song was written about, my whole thing about a long way back to love is when I'm at peace, you know, with myself and in control, kind of, and not needing all these things around me. So it's kind of that journey, you know. It's where one night I did feel myself going, oh shit, I'm way back out there again. Like, I gotta make my way back. When I'm in that space, it's very muddy. Like, it's very like, shit, what do I need to do here, you know? So that song influenced that.
I loved the line, I tried to hitch a ride, but my face was a telltale sign. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's just written all over me, you know. It's obvious nobody's going to pick this guy up. Yeah.
And a wonderful mention of fine and dandy as well, which as soon as you said dandy, I was like, oh God, I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny, on the record, the band were fabulous, but when I did fine and dandy, and we were meant to just come straight back in, and the bass player just stood there. And there's about a 10-second break
It's
on the
lovely,
record.
yeah.
And everybody just kind of laughed afterwards. So
Brilliant, yeah.
instead of bringing it back, you know, we just said, no, leave the dead air there.
It's quite romantic sounding as well. Just like, it's probably the chord selection. That's that very kind of old romance sort of song. It sort of swings a little bit.
I think it's also the way that you sing is quite like like an old well,
Your voice is like toffee.
yeah, it's beautiful, so sweet and
That
sort
is
of
beautiful.
lilting, like the ends of your phrases.
Thank you. I do like going back to that of 50s and 60s music, even the Elvis stuff and that you mentioned, you know. I keep finding myself going back to it. It's funny, we were talking about production earlier now, how you can't do it in the phone and stuff, but it's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's where the phone is kind of coming back, because it's still a sort of haphazard way of recording. Similarly to how it would have been to get into a studio and press record, everybody plays into the same microphone and then it's over, you've got to go home, you know.
Exactly, something falls off the roof or whatever, and there's a big
still
bang
in
and
it.
it's on
Exactly,
the
and those
record,
mistakes
like,
and things, it's
that's
kind of
true.
it's coming back around to that by just having your phone there rather than everything being singularly tracked and pristine. And I think people are sort of getting sick of that. Like,
I think people are looking
very
for something
clean
real
sound.
now as well.
Yeah.
There's so much like especially online, and you're talking about getting stuck in your phone. Because when you're looking at everything as artificial, and they tell you, don't believe in what people present online because it's just,
It's the post-truth age.
Yeah.
I like the song you sang earlier. Wasn't that a lot to
Yeah,
do with?
similar kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
that sort of frustration, not even a frustration, I guess, to a certain degree. It's more that sort of that harken back to life before then, where you could just have an imagination, and it didn't just come from like some fucking YouTube video, and because we tend to kind of very distracted by this, and then you're also led by it as well in terms of what you see. And like, I'm as susceptible to anybody. I know it's false and fake as fuck, but I'll still look at someone who posts up tons of pictures of them in some studio and think, this must be the best album I have never heard. Those bastards are having a great time.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going on until you hear it. And it's not to say that it isn't that as well. It's just, I think it can be quite detrimental in terms of an actual view of reality.
And just overstimulation, like just so much coming at you. Like there's a lot to be said for putting a CD in your car and having 2 of them in the car for a month.
Yeah.
Just like get into them,
You need a 6-changer.
What's that?
A 6-disc changer.
Under the passenger seat.
Yeah.
All right.
Just hit random and you get like 1 track from each. Class.
Yeah, I think as well with saying that they sound the songs sound classic in 50s. I think people could take that wrong and think, what you're doing something, but I think they sound like they don't sound like a parody of those songs, if that makes sense. They sound like they stand up on their own. They sound like they could stand alongside those Elvis tracks or the Everly Brothers. They sound completely original, but slightly an homage because of the sound of that's what the melodies are so. The melodies are almost like so simple. You're like, how has nobody written that before? It's so beautiful and so simple. That's another thing I like to talk about. Do you ever write songs where you go, that has to be ripped off, and you go, and how long do you sit in it? Because I mean, you had Paul McCartney who wrote Yesterday and sat in it for 2 years because he was sure it was somebody else's, and then eventually released it and it was massive. But do you have I wrote a song a few years ago and I was like, this is great, but I'm sure. And then after about a year because I didn't dare play it out because I knew it was something, and then I figured out it was basically Neil Young. It was like start lyrics and melody. I was like, okay. It was parts of the lyrics, and I think probably the melody led me to ripping off the lyrics was what had happened. But so do you guys suffer from that where you go, that's great, and then you realise, or have you got something?
I've got a melody that I've got right now.
Yeah.
That I'm like, can I use? This is definitely something.
Sure.
Let us hear it.
It's probably one of Laura's songs. That's just all I've got, but I'm like, that is something, but I don't know what.
Sounds like your next hit.
Could be my next big hit.
Yeah,
I feel like that's every song ever until you change it and it goes somewhere else,
Yeah.
So like, also I think that the lyrics that you put to that and the melody, and the melody that you have is beautiful there. And I really like that. It's like trance-like, and it puts you in a certain mood straight away. But then, exactly, it's where it goes next is kind of.
And until you commit to it, it's always going to be somebody else's thing.
Yeah. And then I think everything is sort of stolen now at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, most of it is like it's.
Yeah.
But if you write the song, I feel like you're going to do your song. I've heard your songs. It's not going to sound like anybody else's. I think it's probably not a good thing to sit on that too long, wondering, can I finish this? Because is it somebody else's? But not be sure, Meh.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
I heard something the other day that making music and playing music is like a trading of discovery. So you've discovered this somewhere from your subconscious, you've picked it up, and so then you like funnel it through your experience and you share it with other people, and then they pick that up and then they create something of it, and it's like a sharing of discovery through your own lens or something.
Yeah. That's why I have a real problem with people getting sued for like, copyright stuff where it's like, this is music, this is how it's always worked. You take a bit from here and take a bit from there, and when people are getting sued for something because it sounds too much like that old record or whatever, I think that's terrible.
Crazy stuff,
Yeah. because it just stifles creativity, makes everyone scared to like, in case it sounds too much like this or that, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
you're not in a creative, playful sort of mindset. You're just in a,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's important to have references to it. I'm sure, were you listening to a lot of Neil Young?
I'm a big Neil Young fan.
Yeah,
it's
so there you go.
obviously in
Yeah, so
there,
it's
you know,
been there
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And
And-
usually that'll just filter
Oh, yeah.
into something, you know.
Yeah, there's been times since when I've written songs and I've gone, oh, that sounds a little bit, but as you say, once you start writing your own lyrics or your own melody, it's go, oh, right, that slight phrase of that word reminds me, because I'm a massive Neil Young fan, of that
Yeah.
slight phrase that he does, and nobody else is going to hear it. Like, it's just a jumping off point, I guess.
I think references are great because sometimes it's the same as, you know, if you see something different or read something different, or it's not necessarily that you're going to follow that road. It just
Yeah.
it can send you then off on a separate path. You're like, I love that thing, and that has now made me think of this other thing over here.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't necessarily think it's ripping off, but it's so difficult to stay switched on if you're in the middle of writing a song. You couldn't write a verse and then be like, let me just listen to every record I have here for a second.
Be tough job. Yeah, it'd be a hard job.
Yeah, you would never get anything.
Well, you've
out.
got Google can do it for you now, right? You can Google has
Shazam yourself.
but
Shazam yourself.
there's the new Shazam now, which is whereby people will go, oh, what's the song? They hum it. You can hum into your phone now, and
Humzam.
it'll tell you what song it is. Or you can whistle on or whatever, and with a
That's what you should do, Josh.
accuracy. There you go. You might
Yeah.
that might start it out for
And
you.
then that just everything I hum and be like, oh, it's done, done, done.
Well, here's a better question. Have you ever ripped off yourself?
Oh yeah,
And-
I think that's vital. You want to kind of like their familiarities is not a bad thing for people. You know, Joshua, your song, that chord sequence, like I've heard maybe you said REM or something, but then I hear you doing your own thing with
Yeah,
that. We
it's
all
not
like
bad.
familiarity. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you like a thriller movie, you're going to watch a certain one that's kind of the same, you know. Or
Yeah,
but so I don't know.
Familiarity can be a way of tricking people as well, because you're familiar with the thing and then you take it someplace else and they're like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
thought- yeah,
No, it's
playing with people's expectations and things.
you can't do something completely new, every time. And I think if you want to create a sound as well, and you're going to have familiarity within your own repertoire, and you're like
Yeah.
ripping off yourself. Did you ever like rip off yourself where you had a?
That was it. It was just like it was rewriting lyrics and thinking.
Oh,
that,
right, okay.
Thinking that I had come up with some absolute gold, and then looking back and I had it in another song and thought, for fuck's sake, I can't.
Then you have to
Wow,
decide which
that's
song's the
funny.
better song.
Short-term memory loss.
How large of an ego do I have at this stage? To be like, I love this line, man. It's
It's a funny
four
one,
times now.
isn't it? Like I'm the same. If I compete with myself now at this point. So if somebody says I heard you on a radio station, and I go great, and I might look it up. Oh, shit, they played one of the old songs. Do you know, like you're competing with yourself, or
Yeah.
pure silly, like.
It is weird when you look back at songs you've written maybe 10 years ago, and you think, and you try and work out whether you were better then. I do this all the time.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I think I like to think I've just kind of stayed the same, really, in ways, and changed and different, but not really got better or worse.
Mm.
Because like you lose something, but you gain stuff as well as you go along in life. Just different ways of looking at the world, and but yeah. What do you think about?
I know we had that conversation before about listening to your old stuff and
Yeah,
how
cringing.
you can kind of live with it now, because even your singing voice slightly changes,
Oh yeah.
or you know, your phrasing or whatever. And I can't listen to my old stuff.
I can't listen
Bloody
to once
hell.
something is mastered. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But when I hear it a couple of years later, I do cringe. Like I kind
Yeah.
of go, oh, that guy, and then I kind of go, I spent so much time working on it. It's terrible. You know, and back then I thought it was amazing. You know, with the new stuff, you have that
Of
kind
course,
of
yeah.
Whoa,
yeah.
not that guy.
Yeah,
New
it's like,
you, new me.
exactly. It's like the new baby's great, but like the one who's a teenager, you're just like, you get out of my life.
Yeah.
Just go. You're on your own now.
I guess it's kind of unhealthy to think that way, isn't it? Because, you know, like some of these big names, you know, when they do their shows and they won't do the couple of big hits they have, you know, but everybody's paid to see them. There's a bit there, like, just be happy that all these people, you know what I mean? Just do the fucking hit.
Who are you talking to here?
I say farewell to the shame and regret, and every failure I couldn't accept. To each and every time that I cried, to the memory of the disappointment that keeps me awake at night. I'm transcending to another plane, one where I won't be immune to pain. All of the shit I'll never swim in. You can't touch me now, can't touch me now. I love the inevitability of death. I love the inevitability of death. It's gonna be the next radio hit. It's bon voyage to the grudges I've held, from the chip on my shoulder to the ones I've repelled, to every long and lonesome night, and all of the words I've held out of spite. I'm elevating to another floor, one where I don't need this guilt anymore. In fact, it's all pretty redundant. You can't touch me now, can't touch me now. I love the inevitability of death. I love the inevitability of death. I'm levitating over time and space, one where all of the badness is erased. Now it seems funny to say, but you can't touch me now, can't touch me now. I love the inevitability of death.
Lovely.
That's it's a really, and being honest about this, it's a feel-good song for me.
Thanks.
Yeah, it
can't-
is. That's
Yeah,
the reaction I got from it. You know, just that kind of all the worries and fucking shit I feel. You know, it's like, just, and especially the hover and strays at the end. It's
Yeah.
lovely.
I guess that's kind of the point. I mean, I'm scared to death of my own death, which is ironic, but I like the idea of like the freedom, the fact that once you know, and similar to the story you were telling earlier about Josh's friend, like that acceptance, and then you know everything's off the fucking table, and it's just like we have.
So what?
Do everything, because who cares,
Yeah.
really, you know? Once you kind of discard all the other things that don't really matter, that's all you have left. Yeah, I did throw in the shalalas just for the crack, and nobody joined in, so I feel bad.
Oh, the shalalas were cool, because they were like, they were sort of like random. Random. I mean, like they weren't just shalala. They were like
Unrehearsed?
You were like sort of like they were like unusual. So I enjoy the Shalalas.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the Shalalas. Or like they were just today the first time you've done.
Well,
it?
no, I have the song recorded with the Shalalas. I just thought it would be really hilarious because I recorded it with a band called Soft Sports, and we just recorded it in 2 bedrooms in Brighton, quite literally pushing the
Mattresses
everything
against
was
the
up against the wall, mattresses against the wall, everything did like dampen sound, and I had this sort of fantasy about recording like a lo-fi kind of, I don't know, like an indie band sort of set of songs, and I met those boys and thought they already knew each other inside out, and so I just brought these songs to what they normally do, and then we created the restrictions in terms of we don't go to a big studio, we do it ourselves, we use whatever microphones are there, and it's only going to sound one way, and I just wanted that, and so that was the point, and I thought it was
I feel
hilarious.
that I can really hear that kind of sound behind that song, and it would give it that sort of lightness as well.
Yeah,
That you're sort of, the lightness that you.
So did you write the Shalalas? Were they a placeholder and later on I'll put lyrics in, or
No,
it was just
had
a
them.
impromptu, just came out?
No, I had them at the time because I had these a handful of songs that weren't really sitting with what I was doing on my own, and so you know what it's like when you just bank away different things and you're just like that doesn't. But maybe someday that'll work with, if the opportunity comes along, the right people, whatever. And so I always had it in my head that I wanted this almost, this fucking visualization of just a lot of people singing that shalala, and it just because it has that shalala shalala la death.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really good.
great.
I really kind of like if I could get a lot of people to sing that. And so when
it's
we
sort of juxtaposition.
The juxtaposition
isn't it?
for
Like
it.
singing
Yeah.
Shalala and then talking.
so I really
about
liked that idea, and when we recorded it, we just kept overdubbing the 4 of us just singing it, and it gets funnier as you do it as well. And it's very, very cathartic because you're trying to get the higher range and stuff, and really going for those sweet harmonies, and boys have their one finger in the air, It was fun. It was very, very good fun.
Cool. So I think we'll call it a day at that. I want to thank you all for coming along. I really enjoyed listening. Hopefully everybody
you.
at home enjoys listening. So thanks for coming to
Thanks,
Donegal and sharing your secrets. Maybe some budding songwriters out there will take them on board. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Four-legged friend of the Navy boy, fought in the war on the sea's high tide. Back in the days when men were men, that little cat was a ballast to them, and they called him Unsinkable Sam. His military career began in 1941 on a German U-boat that the British shot down. They found him clawing to a piece of board out on the waves far away from shore, and they called him Unsinkable Sam.